I just wanted to make this video before I left. This was the college that I attended during my undergraduate degree. I'm just gonna clip this on and just kind of drive around. Yeah, so this was my college. It's a Briercrest College and Seminary. Emphasis on the college part and less so on the seminary, since I never attended the seminary. But Briercrest it's located within the village of Caronport, and there's all kinds of interesting history I'm about to get into as we drive around. Speed limit's only 30 kilometers an hour, so I just need to be aware. We can see that we have our rink right there to the left, and we're about to drive down the airstrip. Now, you're gonna think to yourself and go, hang on, why is there an airstrip with houses on it? And you'd be correct to wonder that, and I'm gonna get into it. So Caronport was not founded originally as a village. It was, so during the Second World War, this is kind of where our history begins, is the Second World War for this community. There was a need to train RAF pilots during the Battle of Britain. And so happened that Britain had pilots, but they weren't able to train more safely, because to do that you need a certain amount of airtime, you need to learn your aircraft, and you would be very likely shot down by a German fighter than you were to survive. At one point, pilots had a 50% casualty rate during the Battle of Britain. So they needed a place to safely train their pilots before they can send them into battle. And so the obvious solution, and this came about that the Commonwealth Air Training Program was created, which established about 150 air bases all across Canada. Pilots would come from Australia, New Zealand, China, the United States, Britain, France, Poland, all the allied countries. They would come to Canada to train as part of the RAF. Now, obviously they needed to build a lot of bases, and so a lot of bases were built in Saskatchewan and Alberta on the prairies, because it's flat. It's flat. There's lots of room to fly around and lots of room to make mistakes. And so the original story was there's actually a major air base that is still there to this day in Moose Jaw, where I was earlier today. Moose Jaw has our CAF base, the Royal Canadian Air Force Base, and there is a thought that they might use that base to train new pilots. But the problem was we're already training Canadian pilots for the war there. There's not really a whole lot of room. So, but Moose Jaw RAF base had two kind of landing fields where a few associated with it. One to the south and one to the west, near Beauharm. And it was thought that, well, Moose Jaw doesn't really need two crash fields. They really only need one. So the thought was to take Beauharm and turn it into the RAF base to train pilots. And so they were but then what needed to happen was Beauharm needed to find a crash field where they could crash and their planes, and if there's a problem. And so this meant that they had to do some prospecting to make sure that the elevation, find a good spot for that. So they were prospecting around the village of Caron, which was established in 1882 by the Canadian Pacific Railroad. Those guys keep coming up in Saskatchewan. So they were they came around, and as they were prospecting it, they found that Caronport was, or what would become RAF 42, Training Base 42, they found that it was at a 1% incline, which is really good. It meant the whole area was flatter than Beauharm. And Beauharm was fairly flat, but RAF 42 was located about 5 kilometers away from a major railway, It was located about 10 miles away from the only power connection through the province, and it was located near a lake too. So like there's access to water, access to power, and access to transportation to Moose Jaw. And so the decision was made by the politics to actually establish RAF 42 here instead, and make Beauharm the crash field to RAF 42. So the process began in the late 1940s to build up the airbase. And so what would happen would be they would take lumber from British Columbia by the trainload, take them to the town of Caron, and establish Caron Airport. And Caron Airport was it came online in 1941, and we're actually about to drive by two of the last remaining buildings from that time. And RAF 42 was Caron Airport at this point, it was known, was in operation until mid-1944, when it was safe to bring pilots back to Britain because the Luftwaffe had been defeated. And so, on the right here, this is a building known as the Landing. This was the original dining hall that pilots and aircraft would eat at. And it's still used today as a stage and as a performance area and as like a community center. It's the oldest building in Caronport. And by 1945, Caron Airport turned into Caronport, which is where we get the name. Because again, naming things in Saskatchewan makes sense. And in 1946, Briercrest College and Seminary, who had been operating out of the town of Briercrest at that point, they decided to purchase Caron Airport for about $250,000 at the time. This is also the other oldest building in Caronport. It's the laundromat. It always has been the laundromat, and it still is the laundromat. So like, this parking lot used to be where the hangar was, and like this whole area is where the hangars used to be. Obviously, the rink, that's a new building, but like this parking lot that we're in used to be like the main Air Force base, and it turned into a rink, and this is where pilots would go. The gymnasium right there, that also used to be a hangar. It just used to be a little maintenance hangar. It was rebuilt a few years ago, but yeah, that's still one of the only hangars left. And the post office, which we drove by a little bit earlier, we'll drive by it again. That also is the last remaining building from those times. But in 1946, John Hildebrandt, who was the first president of Briercrest College and Seminary, bought the land. The airstrip was ripped out and taken for other uses, and the college was founded, and the town of Caronport, as in Caron's Airport, was built up around it. That's the post office, which is one of the oldest buildings in the region. And so yeah, like there's a lot of interesting history with and this is where I grew up too. Like I grew up here, so this is home. Like so yeah, like I'm just glad to share a little bit about the home. Briercrest College and Seminary today, at its height, had about 1,000 students attending, or like about 800 students attending about 20 years ago. These days, it has a student population of about 400 to 500, plus 100 seminary students. It has a gas station / Husky / Subway / cafe. And then it also has a hotel, which isn't really operable at this point. Like I'm amazed it's still in business, because it doesn't get any business. There's the grid road leading to the gravel plant, and this just leads in and out of Caronport. And yeah, so I'm just sharing a little bit about my home, and I'm thankful that you guys listened, and I wish you all the best. I guess the next stop will be, I'm actually just leaving the highway to go to Winnipeg now. So if you're ever in Saskatchewan, I highly recommend visiting Moose Jaw and Caronport. Obviously, it meant a lot to me growing up. We're actually going to Moose Jaw. I had to double back a bit to get back here, but I also wanted to see like a few of my old professors, family friends, and the like. So I guess I'll catch you all later.